Listen up, we are back with another episode of the Construction Mentor Podcast. My name is Ike, I am your host. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube at The Construction Mentor. You can type in The Construction Mentor Podcast pretty much on any major platform. You'll get it, but most people are downloading on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and some people are even watching on YouTube. What are we here to do? We're here to promote the industry. We want to make sure that everybody's aware of all of the opportunities that people have, whether you're young and you don't know where to go, whether you're in the middle of your life, maybe you're in your 20s, 30s, you want a career change, or even if you're later in life, you want a career change into a career that you know you're going to get a certain output for the amount of input that you put in. There is no other industry that is a more merit-based industry, where if you put in X, you're going to get Y, and then that lifestyle that you dreamed of. If you're already in the industry, we want to make sure that you have the tools, the mentorship, the network to take your career as high as you want it to go. So today we don't have a guest. I wanted to rap. I wanted to come in by myself. You know, I've really struggled with lining up with guests lately because I have a lot going on. I've got a lot on my shoulders. It's been really, really stressful. And I keep asking myself, you know, how the hell am I going to do this? How am I going to figure this out? I'm trying in my day job to do something that nobody's ever done before. I'm trying to do something that is going to change the industry, and I do not use that. I do not use that phrase lightly. At home, I have a 6-week-old. I got a wife and a house, and I got all kinds of things going on that I'm trying to advance forward in my own life. And it can be a lot, you know, wherever you're at. You know, the phrase that I like to use in the shirt that I have on, if you can't see it, you got to have a buffalo mentality. What is a buffalo mentality? What does that mean? Whether it's the current time in my life, and these are all good problems to have, right? Like I have an amazing career opportunity. I have a beautiful family that I'm working on, but the pressure has never been higher. Previously in life, I've been through different storms. I had issues with depression and anxiety and family issues and issues with my parents and the way that I grew up and growing up in kind of a messed up household. And no matter what the storm is, you got to have that buffalo mentality. When a cow sees a storm, what does a cow do? A cow runs from the storm. A cow doesn't want to go near the storm. Inevitably, the storm catches up to the cow, and the cow, since they're running with the storm because they were running in the same direction, they end up being in the storm for exponentially longer, right? And a lot of people, most people, when they come through tough times in their life, that's where they end up, right? They end up in a storm that they can't seem to get out of. The buffalo does the opposite. The buffalo runs at the storm. The buffalo finds a way to move forward, no matter what that means, no matter what work he has to put in, or no matter how hard that is going to be to get to the other side. He puts that work in, and he puts himself through that hard time. He endures the storm to get to the other side to reap the reward of everything that he wants to put in to that effort, right? So that's the way I'm looking at this right now, right? No matter what I do, I got to find a way to move forward. I'm like that dripping faucet. I just got to keep coming a little bit every single day, no matter what I can do. Every time I go to the bathroom, I try to answer emails. I'm trying to do things that just push the envelope forward every single day, because eventually, when my kids get older and things get a little bit easier, and I make this initiative, which I will talk about on the podcast one day, but when I make this a reality, and not just me, but the team that I'm working with changes the industry, and this will change the industry, I'm going to reap the rewards of all of it, right? So you got to have a buffalo mentality. Go to Official Buffalo Mentality. Go check these guys out. They got awesome apparel, and like I said, oh, look at this, I got a hat too, and this is an unpaid ad. I actually just really like the clothing brand. I like the message, and it's something that I try to remember and live by every day. So now that plug is done, what are we here to do today? What are we here to talk about? We are here to talk about 5 reasons why subcontractors hate GCs. 5 reasons why subcontractors hate GCs. Now listen, I'm a GC. Okay, I've been a GC for 12 years. Before that, I was on the engineering side, and before that, I was on the subcontracting side. Now, a lot of people give me crap about how long I've been in the industry. If you go in the comment section, people challenge who I am and what my experience is like in the industry. But I can tell you that I've been in for 20 years. I started in a sheet metal shop. I started cleaning up the shop, unloading the trucks. Then I was going to the supply house to get whatever kind of fittings or whatever kind of material they needed to fabricate duct or pipe. And then I was in the office, and I was doing submittals, and I was doing the paperwork, and I was doing all that assistant project management work and designing duct work for high rises in Boston. I was doing everything that most kids don't get to do until they're 23, 24, 25 years old and fresh out of college, right? So when I say I had 20 years in the industry, I genuinely mean it. It's not like I just hung out on job sites with my dad on Saturday mornings when I was 5 years old and I count that on my resume. That's not it at all. Now, that being said, I have a pretty good understanding of why subcontractors hate GCs. I know why GCs hate subcontractors. And I want to share that today. I want to share my 5 reasons, and I think I even got a bonus one. So, again, 5 reasons why. Why, oh, why do subcontractors hate GCs? Number 1, GCs. You got to treat them like the expert they are. Everybody wants to be treated like an expert. Everyone, first of all, everyone likes the sound of their own name, and everyone wants to be treated like an expert. Now, are they an expert? Well, especially for you young people in the GC world out there, the subcontractor absolutely is an expert. Even if it's a journeyman that's only been in 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 years, they are an expert. And even if they've been in that long and you've been in for 10, 15, 20 years as a GC, now why is that? The reason being is because as a GC, you know a little bit about a lot of the project. Your bandwidth required to run a project, you will never know as much as somebody that lives in that one trade, in that niche, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, okay? It is disrespectful. It is, patronizing to assume that you know more about their job than they do, right? Now, does that mean that you just believe everything they say? No, of course it doesn't, right? But you got to treat them like the expert that they are. You are paying for their expertise in what they do. If you could do what they would do, if you could do what they did, then you would just do it yourself, or you would just pay somebody else to do it, right? You hire them for a reason, so let them be the expert. Now, what does that mean? That means in pre-con, did you actually get their opinion on your budget, right? Like when you tell your client that something costs $100 or $500 or $1,000 or $1 million, did you actually get them to weigh in on it, or did you just throw a square foot cost at it or a linear foot cost at it, and now you got to try and fit 10 pounds in a five pound bag? Did you actually consult them on the schedule, or did you just say 2 weeks, right? Because what they're going to do is they're going to look at it, and you probably didn't even include your schedule in your bid package that you sent out to the subs, but when they get awarded the project and you send out that project schedule, they're going to look at it and they're going to say, well, who made this schedule? It's nobody that knows how to do what I know how to do. They didn't consider X, Y, and Z, right? So you got to treat them like the expert that they are. And there's a few other different ways to do that, but get their input, right? You got to get their input. You got to make them feel like, not even make them feel like they're involved. They have to be involved. You have to leverage their experience and their expertise. Tell me how to make your life easier, right? What do you need from me to meet this schedule? What's wrong with these drawings that I don't know about? Before you even award them, did you actually consult with them to make sure that there's something on the drawings that you may not be seeing as a general contractor? So you got to make them feel like the expert. You got to include them on any kind of pre-con or construction or logistics or anything that you possibly can to get them in. And if and when they do that in the pre-con, how do you reward them? You don't just turn around and hand the project to somebody else. You don't just hand their free con, a lot of people call it, right? Because a lot of the time this is a free effort or a free endeavor that people do. But too often we as GCs turn around and then hand the project to somebody else. Now, it's not a guarantee, right? And then if everybody found out that somebody was helping you on pre-con or that they were the go-to guy, they're not even going to bid your work. You're not going to get a competitive bid. But unofficially, maybe officially, you give him a last look, you give him a last shot. Maybe you don't show him his competitor's hand to say, hey, if you beat this number, then you're good. But maybe you say, hey, you got to give me your best and final like one last time, more than everybody else if you really want the job, right? You got to make it worth their while to be your partner. If you're younger, right? If you're younger, the worst thing that you can do as a GC, and this is probably the number one complaint that I get from any and all subcontractors, is you get a guy who's maybe 40, 50 years old, and they come in and you have a kid working for a GC as an APM or maybe an assistant project manager or an assistant super, and they just want to be the boss. They just want to tell them what to do, and they look down their nose at these guys who have been in the field, and just because they got boots and jeans and they're a little dirty, They think that because they're the assistant project manager or the super in charge of the project, that they get to talk down to them, right? And that they get to basically tell them what to do. Well, listen, kid, the sub has been doing this longer than since you've been alive. And again, he's been doing one thing, one trade. He's an expert in that niche, and you will never catch up to their experience, even by the end of your career as a GC, right? So you better show some respect as one of the younger guys who has never even spent a day in the field because you went to college for a construction management degree or an engineering degree. And they hate the engineers even more than that for the same reason, because just because you passed a few engineering tests or you passed the EIT exam, you think that that trumps 30 years experience in the field as an HVAC tech, as an electrician, as a carpenter, right? It doesn't, okay? I promise you it doesn't. I can't tell you how often I see GCs prove engineers and architects. I can't tell you how often I see subcontractors prove engineers, architects, and GCs wrong all of the time, right? So treat them like the expert that they are. Show some respect. And the best way to show that respect is to leverage their expertise and their experience to your advantage, right? Now, so number one, treat them like the expert that they are. You don't treat them like the expert that they are, and you need to. Number two reason why subcontractors hate GCs, they show up to a job site that is not ready, or it's half ready, right? Hear this all the time. The super or the assistant PM or the PM or whoever's running the manpower or trying to coordinate the trades will be hammering the sub. Come to the job site. And then you'll go there and it's half demoed, right? The carpenter can't do his full layout because it's half demoed. Or the painter shows up and there's not even all the drywall's done. The tapers aren't even out of the way. The walls aren't sanded, right? You won't even have all the ceilings in, and the HVAC guy won't be able to drop his diffusers into the ceiling. Or you call in the electrician, and the ceilings aren't ready for him, or the walls aren't ready for him. Whatever it may be, GCs have a really bad habit of just keeping their foot on the gas and trying to push. And their heart is in the right place. Their intent is good, right? Because they're trying to move and shake as fast as they possibly can. But they don't realize how much money that's costing the subcontractor to show up. And just as a person, how frustrating that is to not be able to just go and do your job as efficiently as you possibly can with the decades of experience that you have. These guys, again, they know what they're doing. They know how to run a clean and efficient job. So what does that mean? That means that you got to have accurate look-aheads for what work is coming up, when people are going to be done. You have to have coordination meetings consistently. Let them join virtually if they can, but in person is always better. Now, you don't want to have them so consistently or so often that people dismiss the meetings. Sometimes bi-weekly is better than weekly, but you have to have accurate coordination meetings and commitments from other subs and realistic projections to make sure that these guys show up when they're required, when it's actually the juice is worth the squeeze. You want the sub to show up when the juice is worth the squeeze. There's nothing worse than trying to him and haw, their way through the job, and then they end up doing work out of sequence. Then they have to redo work, and just nobody likes it. I can't tell you how often subcontractors complain about showing up to a job and the job not being ready for them. Now, on the flip side, a lot of subcontractors will try not to show up until it is 100% ready for them, right? This is a negotiation. You have to work on a little diplomacy. You have to be able to negotiate with these guys. All right, you're going to show up and maybe you'll have half of a floor or a building ready to paint, right? And by the time you get to that half, this guy surely will be done, right? Mr. Stucco guy, yes, you're going to be done. Right, roofer? Yeah, you're going to be done doing this, doing that. And that way you have a little bit of trade overlap. But if there's no assurance there and you develop a reputation of calling trades to show up to the job site before it's ready, the subs aren't going to trust you and they're not going to show up. So, again, they absolutely hate showing up to jobs that aren't ready for them. Number 3, and this is a related topic, not exactly the same, but it is related. Number 1, you don't treat them like the expert that they are. Number 2, you make them show up to a job that is not ready for them. And number 3, you force them to do out of sequence work. And then usually the next thing out of their mouth is, I have never done that before in my life. I have never seen this before in my career. I've never done it that way. This is completely idiotic, right? Give you an example. A lot of GCs today have the framer show up to frame walls before the ductwork goes in. Now, that's a bad idea for several reasons. First of all, the duct guy will end up having to revise his shop drawings to either accommodate or maintain certain framing that's been put in place. The framer's going to have to come back and frame out for all of the ducts that have to go through his walls. A lot of the time, they'll even throw drywall up, and then the drywall has to be cut back, and then you have to bring the drywall tight to the duct and then retape it back in. It's just an absolute mess. It never works out. And then even typically after that, then you get the sprinkler guy and the electrician that don't like it either, because now they are often running just because they see walls in, they know where the rooms are, they can do their home runs, they can put their mains in, and then they're getting ahead of themselves before the duct guy. And the duct guy obviously is the biggest trade on site. He physically takes up the most space, right? So doing out of sequence work, other things can be included with, flooring, whether it goes in before base, flooring, whether it goes in before paint, or, certain work sequences with millwork. Like, do you order the millwork before the wall is framed, or do you order the millwork and then tell the framer to frame it to a certain hold-to dimension? At what point do you order your stone top? Do you template it, or again, do you try to have a hold-to? There are so many things on the job site that when you force trades to go out of sequence, it opens up the job to risk. And that risk is cost and schedule. And you at the GC at the end of the day, and this goes to the next one, will end up trying to pass that cost off to other people, right? And then you put the subs in a situation where it's like they're spending their money to do it in a way that they didn't want to do, when if you ask them as an expert at the beginning of the job, I want to do this, then I want to do this, and I want to show up on the job site when this happens, and that's exactly how I want to go, because I know that that's the best way not to screw everything up, right? I know that as a mill worker, as a carpenter, I will order a perfect cabinet size to fit in this niche, in this nook, if the wall is framed before I get there. I know as a glass vendor, a glazer, that if the header is in place first, I can tell you how to level the floor, and then my glass front or my glass wall, my glass partition will fit perfectly in this opening, and you won't have an issue with flooring or leveling, or the top level, whether it's a grid ceiling or it's a framed opening or a header or anything like that. Those are just a few examples of ways that things can get screwed up on a job by working out of sequence. Okay, so number 1, treat them like the expert that they are. You don't do that enough. Number 2, they show up to the job when it's not ready or it's half ready. Number 3, you force them to do out of sequence work. And that just opens the job up for risk from end to end. Every single vendor, it screws everybody up on the job. And again, if you don't include them on the planning and you don't listen to them, which leads us into number 4. Number 4 reason why subcontractors hate GCs is you don't listen to them, or you don't create RFIs when they bring something to your attention, right? And this is all of these things are kind of related, right? Because it all has to do with schedule and coordination, and at the end of the day, how much it costs everybody. But you don't listen to the expert when they tell you something is wrong, right? The young people really tend to think that they're either trying to pull one over their head or screw them over, or they just think that they'll like squint and close their eyes and the problem will go away. It's not going to go away. Again, they bring these things to your attention because never even mind the cost that it costs their boss and the company that they work for, all this money and coordination, and you're going to end up trying to make them eat it at the end of the day. They just, as an individual, as a person, don't want to deal with it, right? Like they have to go. They have a family to go home to. They got their own stuff going on in their own life. They don't need the stress of seeing a train coming down the tracks and you just standing on it. And then when you get hit by the train, they're going to have to pick up all the pieces. Most of the subs really just want to tell you to get off the tracks. Like, get the hell out of the way of the train. The train's coming. Please do this. Please pay attention to this wiring detail. Please pay attention to the level of the floor. Please pay attention to this structural member that is in the way of this core or this penetration or this riser that I need to put in. Please pay attention to this framing detail. It doesn't work. Please pay attention to the lack of framing detail. I don't know how to build this. I can't attach this. This framing detail won't work with this sink, right? This cabinet detail doesn't fit this sink. Or, hey, just so you know, you can order that cabinet, but I can fit the sink in that countertop, but I can't turn a wrench when the sink is in there to actually install the sink, right? You'd think that architects and engineers could vet all these things and that they knew these things, but they don't. So when a subcontractor brings something to your attention, you should RFI it. You should first ask them common sense questions, right? Is there a detail in the drawing? How can we figure this out just by common sense, just two humans, a semi-educated person and a really educated person in that niche? And then if you come to the conclusion that it's a really good question to ask the design team, you should bring it to their attention. And when you ask that question, you should make sure that you have the deadline from the subcontractor when they need to know it in order to meet their schedule. It happens on every single job. Not my job's not at the company that I work for or any job that I've ever run. But it happens where the subcontractor will say, I told you 10 times that I needed this answer for this question in order to stay on schedule. Otherwise, there's no point in me even showing up. Answer the question and I'll come and do the job, no problem. But it's been out there for 2 months and I've asked you 10 times and now no, I can't meet your schedule. And now you're what? Now you're going to ask me to come in on the weekend or at nights, time away from my family to fix this or to keep on your schedule when I told you that this was going to be a problem? Like, these are the things that come up, and it drives subcontractors absolutely freaking bananas because it's not a problem that they created, but it's always their solution, right? And they always feel like they have to save the GC. So they don't like that. And at the end of the day, when all of these mistakes happen, we have reason number 5. So let's run through the 4 again. You don't treat them like the expert that they are. Number 2, the job isn't ready or it's half ready. Number 3, you force them to do out-of-sequence work. Number 4, you don't listen to them or submit RFIs in a timely manner or get them the answers that they need. And then number 5, you try to get them to eat your mistakes. You try to get them to eat your mistakes. Now, what does that mean? That means that you don't, let's go from the beginning of the project when they give you a proposal. You didn't read something that they excluded. I excluded working at nights. This proposal excludes fire smoke dampers. This proposal excludes fire caulking at fire stopping at all penetrations. This proposal excludes HVAC controls. This proposal excludes lighting controls, lighting shop drawings. This proposal excludes custom light fixtures, custom linear light fixtures. This proposal only includes these certain finishes, right? You can't just get a crazy custom finish. And then you don't have the chutzpah or the gall or the flexibility to go back to the client and say, hey, I missed that scope. I got a problem. What you end up doing is you end up going to the sub and you end up saying, hey, I need you to eat this because I missed it and I can't pass the cost off to anybody. I'll get you on the next one. Then the next one never comes, right? That happens all the time. And subs get fed up with it. But, I mean, inevitably the subs get smart. They all get smart at the same time because they do talk. And they just charge you more on their bids. They'll just put in a 5%, 10% buffer just to afford your job. So when you tell them to eat something, they have something in there to cover it. But either way, it's still annoying for them. And then, as we said, with that out-of-sequence work, when you have to go fix something, when the drywall guy has to run around the job site and fix the patches from the electrician and the HVAC guy and the plumber from all the holes that they poked in the wall from you doing out-of-sequence work that everyone had to move, shuck, and jive to change, and then the painter and the drywaller have to come in at the end and clean that all up, what do? You end up trying to get them to eat it, right? You end up it's that, and then the punch list. It's like you expect them to do all of this extra work when the way they bid the job is the most efficient way. Come in when a room is ready, blow it out with paint, with spray paint, really, and then come back in and do a roller for a finish coat, and then one round of punch list, maybe a day to a punch list, and they're out. They didn't plan to save you and to hide all of the blemishes that you created on the job from your lack of coordination ability. Right? The electrician didn't figure to come in and rewire things several times or wire things late that didn't come in on time for the plumber or for the HVAC guy or for the lighting design that didn't work, or for light fixtures that didn't show up on time. If you order the light fixtures as the GC, right? They don't figure it into their bid to do all of these things, or to hide change orders, help you hide change orders that you can't pass off to your client, right? So when you have a lump sum bid, or you have a bunch of change orders that you can't pass off to a client, you're not going to eat them as a GC, right? So what do? You try to get the subs to eat them. I've been in meetings with subcontractors where the GC just slaps the table and says, I'll give you 25 cents on the dollar for all these change orders. Well, that's how they pay the bills. That's how they feed their family, right? Now, on the flip side, there's definitely, there's that famous picture out there where a subcontractor has two boats, and the dinghy, the small boat, is base contract. That's the name of the boat. And the large, like almost yacht, is called change order, right? So the subs definitely know how to work a change order and how to make money on change orders as well. But when you try to jam costs down a subcontractor's throat that they honestly didn't cause, and you're just doing it to make yourself look good, or to avoid any kind of blame from your office or from the client because you can't explain something that was either your own mistake or the estimator's mistake or whatever it may be, that's extremely frustrating for a subcontractor, right? Now, what you should try to do in all those situations is make a win-win-win-win-win, right? If the sub wins, you win. If they win and you win, that's even better. If they win and you win and the design team win, that's even better. And at the end of the day, the client always needs to win. So if the guys in the field can win, the subcontractors can make money, you, the GC, can make money, the design team can look good, both the engineer and the architect, and the client's happy with them, and you didn't take their design and chop it up and make it turn into a bunch of extra costs and then pass that cost on to your client. And you get to look at your client at the end of the day and say, we saved you money. We hit that schedule, and we gave you a job that you can be proud of, that you can walk into and live in every day and be proud of what we've built for you. That Six Sigma win at every single level of involvement of a project, that's the real goal. That's what you're looking for here. Too many GCs are ready to kind of like pull their junk out of their pants and screw everybody, right? For their own benefit and to make themselves look good and to save for themselves. Really, for what? To look at their boss and try to get a bonus or a promotion at the end of the year, when that's not really a win. A win is when every single person from beginning to end has a project win for themselves. That's the project. That's the leader that you want to be as a GC, and there's no better seat in the entire process to facilitate such a result than you. So you shouldn't be out there to jam things down people's throat and it's not a zero and push for a zero-sum game. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not like either you win or the architect wins, or you win or the subcontractor wins, or you win or the client wins, right? You want to push for everybody to win. And too many GCs, flex their muscles and use their position, their seat at the table to jam stuff down the subcontractor's throat. It's not fair, and it doesn't create a good work environment for anybody. There's a reason why subcontractors hate GCs, and that's probably number one. When I was younger and I decided to make the jump from the HVAC subcontracting world into the GC world, my father, I don't even know what to relate it to, but it was like one of the most disappointing moments I think he's ever had in his life, because I went to the dark side, right? He was an HVAC guy his whole life, and then I went to the GC side. And now he's okay with it. He's very proud of what I'm doing and all that stuff, but there's a reason. And before I wrap up, I'm going to give you one more bonus, right? One bonus reason why subcontractors hate GCs. Let's run through the 5 again. Number 1, you don't treat them like the expert that they are. Number 2, they show up to a job that is not ready or that is half ready. Number 3, you force them to do out-of-sequence work. Number 4, you don't listen to them, or you don't send their questions in for RFIs and manage them in a timely manner. Number 5, you try to get them to eat your mistakes. And number 6, this is a bonus. They don't know what you go through as a GC. What does that mean? That is not an opportunity to play the victim. That's not what I'm talking about. That means that you don't educate them on why you need what you need, right? They don't know who you answer to internally. They don't know what the red tape is if you work at a larger GC, there can be a lot of red tape. They just see you as an obstacle for not giving them what they want or need, or forcing them into a certain situation. They don't understand the red tape that you have. They don't understand your client's requirements or the contract requirements, what backup you have to show them, what justification you have to show them, what evidence or proof of people showing up, what you have to show them there, how sensitive the job is if they have special requirements in what the guys are supposed to wear, or how they're supposed to conduct themselves, or how they're supposed to check in, and what security might be like. They don't understand these things, and it's because you don't tell them. All you do is just yell at them and talk down to them and jam shit down their throat, and it's almost like an opportunity for you to flex muscle or force authority on them, like to be an authoritarian, and that's not what it should be. If you educate them on what requirements you have to fulfill, or who you have to answer to, or any of those types of things, then that enables them to help you. I understand. Well, why don't we do it this way? Right? You'll get a lot more of that. You'll get a lot more bees with honey, rather than blindly not giving them the why and just beating, right? Just beating them over the head with, what you need to do and what you need from them. The other reason is that they don't understand the 3 trades before them or the 3 trades after them, right? A lot of trades just understand where they are and what they need to do. They don't understand what may be in an existing condition versus something that got installed wrong, versus maybe another subcontractor did screw up and we're trying to help him out because, we all want to win together. We don't want to screw anybody. So can we make their install work, right? And then they're way more apt to help you in that situation. The 3 trades after them, I need you to install it this way because there's a projector over here, or there's this big video wall, and behind it they have these requirements, and they need this space for heat or wiring, or whatever that may be. They don't have the foresight because they don't need to. A lot of the guys, they show up and they put in what's on the drawing and they leave and they go home, and that's fine, right? So you got to make sure you educate them on who you're answering to, what the requirements are, what the rules of the road are on your end, so they can help you. You got to educate them on what trades are before them, what trades are after them. Make sure they understand, make sure that they can help. Maybe they'll point out something to you that you didn't even realize, make your life easier, but they'll never point it out if you don't try to explain it to them first. And then the last reason is they might forget that you didn't design the job, right? So, don't take offense to any of the questions that they have or any of the coordination issues that they have. A lot of the time it should just be that's right, that's a screwed up detail. Let's come up with a suggestion that we can make and take it back to the architect or the engineer, right? It's really as simple as that. It's all the temperament that you have. But you just, my recommendation would be that you always try to put yourself in their shoes and their perspective and the pressure that they may have, whether it be in their office, what they deal with at work every day, or maybe what they go home to. You don't know, right? And I don't think anybody's there to be malicious to anybody, right? So when a sub does get abrasive or they're abrupt or they seem difficult to deal with, the best thing that you can do is try to educate them on your perspective and the things that you can see, and try to let them understand what you need to do, why you need to do it, and ultimately what they need to do, why they need to do it, and how you can serve them, how you both can serve each other. And that's how you create a project win. So that's it. I'll summarize one more time. Why do subcontractors hate GCs? Why, oh, why? Number 1, you don't treat them like the expert that they are. Number 2, they show up for a job that is not ready or half ready. Number 3, you force them to do out of sequence work. Number 4, you do not listen to them when they bring things to your attention, and you don't submit RFIs and manage them in a timely manner. Number 5, I think I said 4, 5, you try to get them to eat your mistakes. You jam costs down their throat, whether it's their fault or not, and that just ain't right. And then the bonus is they don't know what you go through as a GC. Listen, this is the Construction Mentor Podcast. My name is Ike. Please hop in my comment section, my DMs. Let me know if you like this format, if you like the interview format. Let me know what topics you want to hear about. I want to help. I want to address anything that will help the young people out there that think that they want to get in the industry, the young people that are just getting into the industry and that want to soar high. And for really anybody that's already in the industry and wants to go to the next level, or maybe you're just interested in hearing my perspective and other people's perspective that I bring on the podcast. But ultimately, I want to give people what they want. I want to give the crowd what they want, so they keep coming back for more. It's part of my purpose. It's part of my passion. I'm not doing this for money. And, with that, I will see you guys next time.